Okay, good morning and welcome to Shulchan Aruch Yomi. We're learning Siman Vav. Din Birchas Asher Yatzar Velakai Nishama Uperushav. There's four sifim. Siman Sif Aleph says, "K'shiyetzi Beis Hakisei." Remember today about Asher Yatzar. When you come out of the bathroom, Yivarach Asher Yatzar Atzadam Chachma. You make the bracha that we're also familiar with. Shebrias Adam, and the Shulchan Aruch is going to explain the meaning of the bracha. Shebrias Adam Hivuchach Nifla. What does it mean with wisdom? Creation of the human body is with tremendous wisdom. Yesh Mefarshim al Shem Shaguf Dome Lenod Mali Ruach. It's not about the creation of a man. It's that the existence of the body of man, that it's like a sack full of air. Who Mali Nekavim. It's full of holes, and still somehow the air stays in the person. The ruchnia stays in the person. Yesh Mefarshim, another explanation. B'chachma shehiskim is an osu shal Adam Harishon. First, a person was created with wisdom that first Hashem created with what to feed Adam, meaning the grass and the vegetation and the fruits. And if you're not an animal rights activist, he also created animals on the fifth day. And then he created man. The Brach continues, created with holes and holes. Chalulim. What are chalulim? Holes are small holes in the body. Your ears have holes, your nose has holes, your mouth has a hole. Chalulim, what is chalulim? Perish, chalulim, nekavim, rabim. So what does nekavim mean? It means a lot of holes. Your mouth, your nose, your anal hole. V'gam barbo evorim, rabim, chalulim. What does chalulim refer to? Big organs of a person, chalulim, which have holes in them, sort of. Your heart, your stomach, and your digestive system, the small intestine, the large intestine, these things have holes in them. The heart has different arteries and veins, aorta. If some of them are closed off, the meaning of this pasuk, of this part of the bracha, is that when a person is in the womb, the mouth, your mouth is closed when you're in the sack, when you're in the amniotic sac. When you are born, the mouth opens. Your mouth was closed. You could be able to breathe. Even 1 second. And also, I guess, the labia and your intestines, if one of them was ruptured, you couldn't even live for 1 second. Other explanations of this bracha, shegvul yesh la'adam she'echolim nekav l'sasim lo yamos. Right, some of your holes in your body, they could become clogged. Arteries can clog a little bit, you still won't die. If your arteries become clogged too much, you can't live. Included in the holes are, right, the urinary hole, right, the hole in the tip of your penis, and for a woman also, she has the urinary hole, urethra, I think it's called, the piatabas, the anal hole. B'chalei varim achalulim she'im yipaseach echad mehem efshar lehiskayim. The varim achalulim, like we said before, the heart and things like that, and the stomach. Because part of the bracha is talking about your stomach and digestive tract, the large intestine, the small intestine, where you get rid of the waste, and also it's talking about the urinary tract and the rectal tract. So all these things are included. That's why they're included in the pasuk, because you just went to the bathroom. You went to the bathroom. Since it also says in Yarsha Yatzar, meaning if you pass that threshold, they'll die. It's also included if one of them is open. And Shimi Pasei Echad Mehem also is Siyas Rachav Mamish. It's also part of Siyas Rachav, um, meaning the body functions on based on the fact that your arteries are not clogged and things are in place. So, Arofe Choli Kol Basar Hashem Shanakom Shabar Bolo Hosi Psolos Macholo. Why does it say Rofe Choli Kol Basar? We don't say Rofe. We say Rofe Kol Basar. We don't say Choli. Here it's Hashem Shanakom Shabar, the holes that Hashem created, Hosi Psolos Macholo, to take out the waste. If it would rot in your stomach, the waste, you would die. But it's also here refuah. It's a refuah going in the bathroom, excretion. Mafli lasos. Why did I say the word mafli lasos? It's a wonder. Like we said before, he's like a sack full of air. If you had a sack, you put even a needle's hole in it, all the wind would come out. A person is filled with holes, and his air stays within. You take the maflias, you take the parts of nutrients that are good for you, and you reject the things with the waste, which is bad for you. It's something else. The kosher davar ruchani b'davar gashmi. Hashem keeps his ruchnius in him and makes it dependent. His ruchnius is his life, basically. It depends on the gashmi. It depends on the food that he's eating. The davar gashmi is the food, and in its entirety, it's referred to a refuah, because refuah doesn't just mean that you're sick and you have a refuah, it also means brius, being healthy, is a refuah itself. So the brius of a person is also a refuah. That is the Ramah's explanation. Basically, when you have Asher Yatra, they have those Asher Yatra signs. So they should, I think, quote this entire Sif Aleph and Shulchan Aruch and place it right next to the Asher Yatra sign so you can have the right kavanas. Translation they put is not enough. The colorful one with the four stages of life. I always wonder why they have a baby, they have a little child, like an 8-year-old child, then they have a middle-aged man and an old man, like a 56-year-old man and like an 80-year-old man. What happened to like the young adult, the 20, 30, 40-year-old, 20, 30-year-old? Why is he not included in that stages of life? They have one of the stages of life. I always wondered that. If you have an answer, please tell me. Some say, we mentioned, we learned before in Simon Dalad about making Tilas Yadayim. Some say you don't make the bracha on Tilas Yadayim until you come to Beis HaKnesses. Misajin also im shara brachos. Right, a lot of people do this. It said they say all the brachos. They don't say any brachos at home. When they get to the Beis HaKnesses, they say all the brachos. Bnei Sfarad lo na'alkein. Bnei Sfarad, they didn't do this. They say on Tilas Yadayim right, they wake up in the morning. It depends on whether you consider it a hefsek or not. Even the Mishnah Berurah says that if you're going to do other things besides before you come to shul, for example, I take my kids to school, to Gan. If you're so then you should do Al Yisrael in the shul, because it's going to be a hefsek between Al Yisrael when you woke up in the morning and going to shul. But if you don't have a hefsek, it seems that you should make it right in the morning. Al Kol Panim, the Ramah says Leivarach Shtei Pam. You shouldn't make it twice because it's a bracha v'atala. You're doing it on Tilas Yadayim in the morning, seemingly. And Ian Shulchan Aruch, I'm going to get into more in this. What really to clarify what exactly is this bracha Tilas Yadayim going on? To clarify more what we said in Simon Daled. Again, if you already made the bracha in your house, you shouldn't make it in the Beis. Again, repeating the same thing. If you're going to make it in the shul, don't make it in your house. If you're going to daven in your house, or you're going to learn first, like we said, there's a hefsek, you should make it in your house. Some say even if you're going to learn first, or even if you're going to daven in your house, maybe you should say it in shul. I don't think we pass like this. This is interesting. The bracha l'kain neshama doesn't start with the baruch. Normally brachas start with the baruch to Hashem. L'kain neshama doesn't. It ends off with the baruch. It doesn't start with the baruch. The explanation is, it's a bracha of thanksgiving to Hashem. If you don't know this is a bracha, when you have an abundance of rain, supposed to make a bracha, that bracha also doesn't start with baruch to Hashem, because brachas of hodos, you're thanking Hashem. You're thanking Hashem. You don't open the baruch. You only conclude with the baruch. There is another opinion mentioned in the Torah. The reason that there's no Baruch is because you're making it in Tilas Yadayim before Elokai Neshama. So making Tilas Yadayim before Elokai Neshama, it's called a bracha smuchel chaverta, a bracha next to a different bracha. So the bracha of Tilas Yadayim serves as the beginning of bracha Elokai Neshama. Again, this would be dependent on whether you say Tilas Yadayim in the house or not. Elokai Neshama, you're going to say presumably in the house, maybe not, but if Tilas Yadayim is really going on what you're doing in the morning, the Nagel Vaser in the morning, then it would always be the Tilas Yadayim would be Smucha L'Chaverta. But if Tilas Yadayim is not going on the Nagel Vaser, which I'm going to suggest in Shulchan Aruch, then it must be this reason that Elokai Neshama does not start with a bracha. Dalet Yesh Nogin Sha'achar Shabirach Echad Berachas Hashachar V'anu Achar Amen Chozer Echad Ma'onim Amen Muvarach Ma'onim Achar Amen. This has become very prevalent nowadays, especially among women. They have these Amen people. They're answering Amen. First one person says the Berachas Hashachar Amen 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 Amen. The other person says the Berachas Hashachar. I even saw a video of Chaim and his wife do this. Chaim Atzal, should say. He did this and his wife did this. They each make brachas. They answer Amen to them. Right? First, one person says all the brachas, and then the other person says all the brachas. The other person answers Amen. Shulchan Aruch says you can't have fights about what they do. There's a concern because when they answer Amen to the first person's bracha, maybe they're yotze, right? You can be yotze with someone else's bracha. Someone likes a bracha. He motzi me with a bracha. Because the person making the first brachas, he didn't have a kavanah. He knew he was going to answer Amen to your bracha, so he didn't have kavanah to be motzi. And I feel so even if he did have kavanah, you don't know what's going on in the other guy's mind, another person's mind, but you're not mechavin to be yotzi this bracha, as you plan on saying it yourself. So therefore, in order to be yotzi someone else's bracha, you need kavanas ha-mevarech, kanas ha-mizvarech. The person who makes the bracha has kavanah, and the person who's yotzi with the bracha has to be mechavin to be yotzi with his bracha, and seen on both of those, so it's okay. It's interesting. Lashon the Shulchan says you shouldn't have a problem with this because it's mashma from the Torah and things like this. There are a lot of poskim that say it's usher to do this. I think the Gra or Rabbi on the Shulchan Aruch says there's actually a tshuva which says it's really usher to do this. It's actually become the opposite of that, become prevalent and a praiseworthy thing that people do this nowadays. But there are a lot of earlier poskim that says it's usher to do this. So just to have that in mind, know that most poskim, the consensus of most poskim, it's usher to do this, or at least not advisable. At least not usher, it's not advisable to do this. I think that's consensus in the Shulchan Aruch itself. But technically, there is no problem halachically with doing it. But it's interesting to note that there's a trajectory. Not that's the right word. There's basically the consensus of the other poskim is basically not a good thing to do. We'll see you in Ian Shulchan Aruch, who will discuss more this Alan Daim and what really is going on, and therefore it has consequences whether Elokai Neshama is bracha smucha verta or not. See you there. Bye.